Hello everybody, welcome back to my kitchen. I am Dylan, the host of this unnamed show. I saw some great names. I saw Grillin' with Dylan, which is cool, it rhymes, but I don't have a grill in my house. The grill I do have is broken, unfortunately, so I don't know if I can go with that. Thank you, Steve, though, for the suggestion. And then I saw Dylan's Delicious Delights, which I don't know if I like. It's a little wordy, a little strange sounding. So if you think of any other names for this show, put them in the comments of the video and I'll pick from there. But today, we're going to be making bread. Not just any bread. We're going to be making no-knead bread. I'm excited about it because not only is it lazy, which is the best way to do things in the kitchen, but it's also bread, which I love. So, only 4 ingredients, four ingredients. Flour, coarse salt. You can use regular table salt if you have it, but coarse salt is best. Water, lukewarm water, and yeast. Yeast is the most important thing besides the flour. Kind of hard to find these days. A lot of people have gone out and bought all the yeast, but I picked up a couple packets before everything got crazy. So just 1 packet of instant fast-rising yeast. That'll do you right. So we're going to get started. Okay. We're over at the counter. I'm sitting again because once again I'm too tall, so we can't capture all of me in the frame. But before we start, I did want to mention that the recipe that I'm using for this comes from sallysbakingaddiction.com. I've used her bread recipe for pizza dough, and it was really good. So I might do that in a future video, but I'll put the link for the recipe that I used in the comments or underneath the video just before I post it. So I've got everything pre-measured out, but I will tell you how much I used. This is 2 teaspoons of the instant yeast. I just pulled it out from the packet. 2 teaspoons of the coarse salt. This is 3 1/4 cups of bread flour or regular white flour, really doesn't matter. And then 1 1/2 cups of lukewarm water. So to your bowl, I am using a clear mixing bowl so you can see what I'm doing. You're just going to add your flour. And your yeast, and your salt, all in one. And you're going to give that a stir. I'm using a silicone spatula. This really helps with sticky doughs because you can kind of get along the corner of the bowl to get everything off. So I'm going to give it a nice stir to get everything mixed in properly. That looks all right. And then I'm going to add in the lukewarm water, and you're just going to stir with the spatula until everything kind of gets incorporated into a loose dough. It's probably going to be a bit sticky, but that's okay. I'm going to add this in. I should probably do it with my other hand. If you want to bring the camera over and show the stirring process. This is like the most rudimentary stirring ever. I'm just kind of mixing it around. Alright, so all the water's added, so now I'm going to use my spatula and start to incorporate everything, making sure to scrape the sides regularly and the bottom of the bowl. And you'll notice it's kind of starting to come together, but it's still really, I guess the baking term is shaggy. Kind of like that old carpet. So, that's a weird comparison, I apologize. But I'm just going to continue to work it together with the spatula until it becomes a little bit more consistent. And then once I do, we'll meet you back here. Update. We've had a great loss in the Keefe household. My spatula broke. Literally, I cut the camera, I went to stir a little bit more vigorously, I stood up and broke the spatula in half. So from now on, I'm going to use my hands. Still not going to knead the bread. I'm going to pretend my hands are spatulas. And I'm going to abide by that until later on. But yeah, I just wanted to update you, and I wanted to thank you for being here with me in this time of great loss. Alright, so I have finished mixing the dough with my spatula hand. Rest in peace, blue spatula. And this is what you're going to get after you have mixed it. So it's roughly a ball shape. It's come together nicely. It's no longer super shaggy, but it is still sticky, as you can see. So what you're going to do is try to form it into a rough ball shape as best you can. Put it back into the same bowl that you took, that you mixed everything in. And you're going to cover it with some plastic wrap or tin foil. I like the plastic wrap just so I can see how much it's risen on top. That's important, I guess, if you're using a bowl that's not clear like I am, but I'm just going to go with the whole thing. So I'm going to cover this with plastic wrap, and we're going to let it rise on the countertop in your kitchen for about 2.5 to 3 hours, and then after that, it will be ready to bake. So a little dough update. It's looking really good. It hasn't quite doubled in size, so we're probably going to wait another hour before we bake it. Once we're done, I'm going to take it out, split it into 2 loaves, put one of them in the fridge for tomorrow, and bake one tonight. Okay, so welcome back. It's been about 3 hours. We've been waiting for the dough to rise. This is what it looks like. It's about doubled in size. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it out onto a floured work surface, and put a little bit of flour on my hands as well so it doesn't stick too much. I'm just going to use my counter. Just make sure you wipe down your counter before you do anything on it. You don't want to get any funky stuff on your bread dough. So I'm going to take some of that all-purpose flour from before, and just do a little dusting on the counter, spread it out a little bit, put a little bit on my pants, and then my hands, apparently. Rub a little bit, and then I'm going to take the plastic wrap off and turn the bread dough out onto the floured surface like this. So at this point, you can cut it in half and put both loaves on a pre-oiled and pre-floured pan. I've done that already. I put a little bit of olive oil. You can use whatever oil you have, as long as it's cooking grade. And then I put a little bit of flour on there as well to make sure it doesn't stick. You can cut this in half and put both on there to bake. I'm actually going to cut it in half and put one of the loaves back in the bowl, cover it up, and put it in the fridge overnight. And I'm going to bake a second loaf tomorrow, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. You can do it right after it's done the 3-hour rise, and then you can do it again after about 12 hours. So you get different flavors and different things either way, so I'm excited to find out what that is. So I'm going to cut this in half using my cleaver. Be careful, okay? It's sharp. So I'm just going to cut it in half. Being careful of the counter. I don't want to cut the counter. Okay. And then with my floured hands, I kind of arrange it into a rough loaf shape, and I'm going to place it in the center of the floured oiled tin. Now I'm going to cover this with some plastic wrap, and I'm going to let it sit for about 45 minutes. Then once that's done resting, we're going to pop it in the oven, which I'm going to preheat right now to 475 degrees. Okay, so the 45 minutes is up. Now you can take the plastic wrap off of the bread, and you're going to take a sharp knife or a pair of like kitchen shears, like scissors or something like that, and you're going to score the bread. You're going to take the knife and cut the top of the bread ever so slightly, nothing crazy. And you're going to do 3 of those cuts. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So once you've done that, you're going to take your loaf, and you're going to put it in the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. I'm going to go 23 minutes, kind of right in the middle. Put it in there. Set your timer for 23 minutes, 20 to 25, and wait a little bit longer. So the timer just went off. We're going to take it out and let it rest for 5 minutes. It's going to be the hardest 5 minutes of your life, but trust me, it's worth it. You don't want your mouth to be burned on this wonderful bread, and then you can't eat the bread at all. It's patience. Okay. Close the oven so I don't burn myself. Turn off the oven. And here it is. Looks good. Right, yeah. Alright, so I'm going to put it on the cutting board, and we will meet back in 5 minutes. Okay, so I've waited the 5 minutes. I'm going to cut this bread open, and I'm going to taste it with this knife. You can come closer if you want to see the bread cut. It's exciting, I think. Premium entertainment. All right, I'm just going to cut it right down the center. Ooh, it's crusty. In a good way. Ooh. Okay. It turned out pretty good. Turned out all right. I'm going to cut a couple more slices. Give it a taste. Okay, that's like the worst looking slice you've ever seen in your life. But it doesn't matter, because hopefully it tastes good. I'm going to grab my butter dish. Take a pat of butter. Don't judge me for how much butter I'm putting on this bread. Oh my goodness, this is way too much butter, but I'm going to do it anyway. Alright? And we'll give it a taste. Mm-hmm. You know, it tastes a lot like kind of one of those fancier loaves you get from the grocery store, like artisanal penne loaf or something like that. Except I didn't have to knead it, and I made it with 4 ingredients. It took me like 4 hours, but it was still, I feel like it's worth it. Tomorrow, I guess it'll be in the same video for you guys, but tomorrow I'm going to bake that second loaf after it's been overnight in the fridge. And I'm going to do another technique where I put some boiling water in a pan underneath it in the oven to make the crust even darker and a little bit crispier. So, we'll catch that tomorrow. Okay, so it's several days later. I took the second loaf out of the fridge. It's been in the fridge for 2 days, and it has finished its cold rise. And so now I'm going to do the exact same thing as before. Oven preheated to 475. Loaf resting for about 45 minutes on an oiled and little floured pan. The difference with this one is that I'm going to put this into the oven, and then I'm going to pour several cups of boiling water into a pan below it on a lower rack, and that steam is supposed to really crisp up the crust on this. So I'm curious to see if it's going to work. So I'm going to pop this in now. It's actually cold, so I don't need to grab it. But I'm going to pull out this bottom rack. I'm going to take my kettle that has some preheated water in it that I just got boiling, and I'm going to pour it. So you got to be careful in this step. Alright, so now I'm just going to close the oven. It's going to continue to steam in there, and I'm going to set the timer for 25 minutes. I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so the timer just went off, so I'm going to take a look. Ooh, I'm really excited. This looks awesome. This looks way better, at least to me. So, I don't know if you can see, but the loaf looks a lot darker, but not in a burned way. It looks like it has a lot more color. Ooh, and it's hot, so don't do that. But I'm going to turn the oven off. I'm going to let this cool for a couple minutes, and then we'll see how it tastes. Okay, so it's been a couple minutes. I'm going to cut the bread now. We're going to see how it tastes, and then that'll be it. So I'm going to cut it in the middle like I did before. It feels good. Wow. I definitely like the crust on this a lot better than the last one. Ooh. It's still not as cool as I might like it to be, because it's a little warm, you know, but it's good. I'm just going to try a piece without any butter or anything. All right. I like it a lot. It's a little tangier because it stayed in the fridge longer. I'm going to get to ferment a little bit longer, and the crust is a lot crispier than the last one, and I'm a fan of that. So if you don't like super crispy crust, or you don't like a lot of crust like this, then you would omit that whole step with the boiling water in the pan. But I think it turned out pretty good. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you do make it, let me know. Post some pictures in the comments of this post showing me the bread loaves that you made if you do decide to make it. And I will be back next week with another video, and I hope you guys are all staying safe. Have a good one.